Hi, I'm Eamonn. Welcome to Choreo. This is an exhibition of my work which goes back a number of years, and the theme is dancers. Many of the pieces inspired by dance, ballet and opera. Quite a few of the pieces have stories behind them, and that helps me and inspires me in focusing on producing the work. This is one of the heads I would have made in the early days. It's inspired by the marble white heads of the Cycladic islands in the Aegean. I turned it blue. I made it male. Other heads would have been inspired by Tuareg tribesmen of Morocco, Aztec sun gods, some of the heads that would have been made in If in Nigeria, and various sort of native influences, African influences, Celtic influences. And one of my series of works I did in the early days were hooded figures, leaping, praying, kneeling. One of the dances or the ballets that was influential for me was the Nutcracker. There are a number of sequences in the Nutcracker which everyone's familiar with. There's the Russian dance, the Chinese tea dance, but there's also the very exotic Arabian dance. And when I saw the Nutcracker many years ago, the lead figure in the Arabian dance sequence was a Northern Ireland dancer called Melissa Hamilton. She's now a prima ballerina with the Royal Ballet in London. And she did what can only be described as the most sublime version of the Arabian dance that I've seen. And this is it. This is quite an old piece of mine. It's one of my earlier dance figures, but it was one I did to show to myself that I could do a fairly realistic dancer. What I particularly like about this is I captured the weight of the satin trousers. So if you look at it, you feel that those trousers are hanging down with a particular weight, and the graceful arms and legs show off the figure of the piece. This led me on to focusing in the last 5 or 6 years on dancers. A lot of the dancers are from ballet, but they're also from opera. And one here beside us is Manon. Manon is the principal character in the opera Manon by the same name. Manon is a tragic figure, and at the end of her life, though, she finds peace and happiness in the arms of her partner before she dies. This piece captures her later in her life. She's elaborately dressed, expensively dressed, but she's destroyed. She is about to die. She's wafer thin. She's full of remorse. But in the final sequence, she finds happiness and peace in the arms of her lover. Another piece of particular interest to me is another opera piece. This is from the Ring Cycle by Wagner. These are the 3 Rhine maidens. I've sculpted them in a circular form to reflect the ring of the Ring Cycle. And then in the base is the gold ring that they're protecting at the base of the Rhine. I come up with these themes. They help me to visualize what the piece should look like. They're not necessarily realistic representations of the piece, but they do help me to formulate the sculpture as I'm making it. About 20 years ago, we lived in Africa for a number of years, so I've always been partial to the African influence in my life. And this piece is one of a number of dances I did of African dancers. This is called Ngoma. Ngoma is the Swahili word for dancing to the beat of the drum, or just dancing. And I tried to capture in this the languid, sort of graceful stance of an African girl responding to the beat of the drum. Not all the pieces are realistic or even stylized realistic. This is a piece I tried to reduce it to a sort of a basic form where I capture the 2 figures in the tango dance joined together, indistinguishable from each other, with their legs. 2 of their legs are joined together as if they were one. And I'm trying to capture in that just the essence of the tango dance without any reference to the physicality of the two dancers. Most of my pieces, I try to start off with a realistic figure. I usually work with the figure unclothed. I stretch it, I elongate it, and I clothe it. So not only the figure, but the actual clothes on the figure are to try to capture that moment of movement, that point where the figure is alive. Because what fascinates me about doing my sculpture is trying to capture form, trying to capture movement, trying to capture elegance. My exhibition Choreo is on display in Gormleys Gallery on South Frederick Street from October 23rd until November the 15th. I hope to see you there.